This is DNA. We've all seen it. You'll see right pictures of DNA and wrong pictures, so it's good to take that in. This is a correct or more accurate picture. A lot of times you see DNA where it's symmetrical, but it's not symmetrical. It's very heavily offset, as you can tell by this picture. Now what they have here, you have your two strands of your double helix. Notice, you can see the nodal points of the equation right here. 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. And, with that crossing right there, offset in the center. Amazing, remarkable coincidence that the DNA would look like that. So what this led to was a prediction that this is what they call the major groove. Okay, you have the minor groove, which is here, which is where they're actually connected along the side, and then you have the major groove, which is this big gap space. It's called a major groove gap space, and it's on here. And so what we predicted, or actually this was originally Marco predicted, was that there would be a magnetic field inside this major groove of DNA. And after contacting a variety of scientists and talented researchers, academics, it was confirmed that it's already known there is a magnetic field in the major groove of DNA. Not to bore you, but just to give you their explanation, they say it's because DNA is made up of phosphates, and phosphates have a negative electric charge, and anything with a negative electric charge can have an associated magnetic field. But really, it's much deeper than that. Because if you understand the geometric shape, you realize that this is what we're talking about in the flux field. So by being able to tap into this energy, this harmonic, this using these coils, it's even starting to be shown. That's why we say you could cure all diseases with this. Because all diseases rely on being able to dock up with receptor sites. And all the activity is going on here in this major groove. Okay, so by controlling the magnetic fields, the theory is that you could literally push and steer disease out of the body. It would not be able to have a receptor site to dock up to because, again, it's all geometric, just like chemical combinations. Alright, so this is a good example where you can see that geometry just loud and clear. I'm going to bring this up here with me. Let's see what else we got here. There's the vortex. I'm going to go ahead a little bit. Alright, here's another good example. Well, let me just go back to this. Since we don't really have time for me to teach you all the math, this really goes into the work that I did, which was to take that symbol and turn it into a 3D shape. Now, it was already postulated, they believed that it would make a torus, but no one could figure out exactly how to do it. So what I did was took all those multiplication tables that were shown on there, on that equation, and I used them as axes in space. Up, down, left, right, front, and back. And I didn't invent this, by the way, it's a discovery. It's something that numbers do, it just exists, it's something that we found. When you apply those numbers to a coordinate system, this is what was referred to as mathematical perfection, where on this torus here, on this donut, okay, which we say is the ultimate shape, this is why I believe it's the ultimate shape for energy transformation and for perfection. And I'm going to show you some more examples. This has every calculation imaginable contained over the surface. So you could do any kind of calculation, and it's pinpointing a location in a 3D geometric shape. And I can't overemphasize how important that is, how much it changes about what we know about geometry and math. So I believe, and it's a belief, I don't have data on this, and neither does anybody else, I believe that the entire universe is in this shape of a torus. Now, I may be going out on a limb there, but, every galaxy we observe torus that I've seen. We see these perfect geometries, which I'll show you in supernova, and pulsars, and quasars. You see it in your blood cells, and you see it in your DNA. So from the macro to the macro, it's the same. Micro to the macro, it's the same principle. Okay, and this is what's making us up. It implodes at the top, It's a black hole, sucks everything into it, and it explodes at the bottom, which is a white hole. So in conventional math, they say that black holes just go into infinity and they don't even know what's going on because the calculus self-destructs. This is the first math that was ever able to go through the center of the hole and come out the other side and reconnect to itself in an unbroken calculation. And I can't really underestimate the significance of that discovery. So it really gave you a 3D model, and it showed you how things compress and decompress. Even the gas that you burn in your car has to implode before it explodes. It's just much easier to tap into the explode side.
Not to interrupt, but didn't guys like Hawking kind of postulate the same kind of thing, that you had like this implosion into a black hole and then it would come out the other end into like, you know, a kind of explosion? Was he going in that direction too?
I haven't heard that from him before. If you didn't hear his question, he was asking about Stephen Hawking perhaps postulating the same thing. From all the information that I've seen from Hawking, that they're really looking at a black hole, and in fact, the idea of a black hole first came from the solution to Einstein's field equations. That's which was done by a Russian gentleman, Schwarzschild, I think was his name. He found that Einstein's equations predicted black holes. It's just because all the numbers self-destruct. Everything goes to infinity. And they can't, you have two kinds of infinities in physics. They have what they call negligible infinities, which are like really small numbers that don't seem to affect anything, so you can kind of get it to the side. And they have what they call nasty infinities, which are these huge numbers, and, just totally blow everything out of the water, and they don't know what to do with them. So usually they just sweep those under the rug too. But that black hole is one case, and there's whole books written on this about the contentions, all the problems that this brings into quantum mechanics and information loss and a whole variety of topics. But the truth is, I believe, it's an ecological system. It's taking, so when we're expanding, we actually know, if this math holds up to be true, that we're expanding because we're in the south. And everything comes out of the bottom, it expands, and it cools off. Right? So as it's cooling off, it goes from being just a raw plasma gas, the meta material of what everything is, and it cools down into all the various elements, and it eventually can form galaxies and planetary systems, etc. I'll get to you in just one second. And then eventually, when it reaches its outermost point, and it was Einstein who supposedly said that if you look far enough into the universe, you'll see the back of your head, because everything's warping and curving. So when it gets far enough out, it's given off all its heat, it's gradually brought back in towards its gravitational center, which is where all the mass is compressed. That's why when you look at the center of the galaxy, it's huge, bright, and there's all that condensed matter there, right? And as it brings it in, it accelerates it, it heats it, it concentrates all its heat towards the center, and when it gets to that extreme level of compression, it literally wrings the energy out. That energy shoots out, and that's what these numbers are. That's this diamond grain, this pattern here. It's a reticulation pattern. You see it on animals, you see it on plants, you see it everywhere in nature, and it's the result of these emanations. Creates the hidden underlying geometry of the universe.
You invented that math?
Did I invent it?
Well, you theorized it.
In combination with my teacher, I solved it. I was the one who figured out how to actually do the calculation.
I only have one word for you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, let me show you a little more about it. Okay, here's some pictures of your blood cells. All right, here. In that same exact toroidal donut shape. Now, I went to a doctor because this is what I do. I mean, I'm not the expert, right? I just go to the experts and I say, what about this? Why does this do this? And then, and so I went to a doctor and I asked him, so what's the deal? Why are blood cells in the shape of a torus? Well, they really don't know, but other than it has good aerodynamic quality for traveling through your veins. But the main reason that they say is because it maximizes the surface topology, which means it has maximum ability to do gaseous interactions, etc. And so it's part of its functionality. So again, another important concept, because when you look at engineering, pretty much the common denominator that we're having problems holding us back and all the technology. It's heat loss. It's entropy. It is just a function that increasing the surface topology, which is what a torus does, cools it down. It's another function of why it cools it down. Even, I had a friend of mine who was a Marine, and he sent me this picture of this gun that they have, and it has a twisted barrel, has a helical structure on the barrel, and I asked him, why did they do that? He said, oh, it increases the surface topology and it cools it down so you can shoot it more before it overheats. So again, it's a universal kind of principle. You can see it there in your blood cells. Here's a picture I got out of a medical journal. This is actually said to be your DNA. DNA actually taking the shape of the torus. And this is at the very cutting edge of genetic research, and I don't think it's very well understood what it's doing, but it does confirm that is fundamental to the structure of the body. This is a picture of a gas implosion bubble created in a laboratory. They call it sonophysics, or sonoluminescence, because this is done by using sound frequency. And you can see that it forms it into that nice, perfect toroidal shape. This jet here, which is about 1/10 the diameter of the whole thing, this jet right here, they've measured them reaching temperatures of up to 5,000 degrees Celsius, which is about the same as the surface of the sun. Pretty impressive. And outside, it's cool. Okay? So again, and these are on my website, theabhakingdom.com, and you can actually read the journal articles that will give you in detail how that's working. So again, a way that we can regulate temperature. This is the problem with fusion. They can't control the heat. Right? Fission is very destructive. Fusion is really the way of the future, but it's very difficult to control the heat, and so that's why I'm suggesting this process. There you can see a hurricane using that same. It doesn't matter what the matter is on that track. Could be air, in which case it'd be a tornado. Could be water, in which case it'd be a hurricane. It could be plasma, in which case it would be a fusion reactor. All right, just even like an Iron Man, the arc reactor. You know, I mean, it's the same kind of thing. There you see a galaxy, nice toroidal shape. There's another one. These were done by the Chandra Observatory from NASA. Here you can see it in plants. This is aloe vera. And you see that same geometric reticulation pattern, and I can show you when you get more detailed in the map.